पहले सभी से रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहता हूं, प्लीज आप जहां भी हैं यथास्थान बस थोड़ी सी देर बने रहिए। हम गुरुजी को पहले जाने देंगे और फिर हम सब लोग इस रूम से बाहर जाएंगे। इन द मीन टाइम आई वुड लाइक टू थैंक सकार, द सत्संग फाउंडेशन। एआई की आजकल हम लोग बात करते हैं, इफ एआई इज गोइंग टू चेंज आवर लाइव्स और नॉट, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस। बट आई वाज थिंकिंग लिसनिंग टू गुरुजी की आध्यात्मिक इंटेलिजेंस, इफ वी डेवलप दैट we'll definitely
matter what the modus operandi or the system is, qualities are important. If these three qualities are there in a human being, according to Krishna, then I would consider that person as a great yogi. So what are the qualities? The first one is samniyam indriya gramam, one who has control over his senses. This is very important to note. Nobody is saying you should not indulge in your senses. Many yogis have been grahasthas. Not all yogis are sannyasins. Control of the senses means don't allow your senses to run away with your mind. Rather keep them under check with your mind. Use when necessary, withdraw when necessary. This samniyam indriya gramam, one who has complete control over, not complete control over all the indriyas. Second quality is what we discussed just now. Sarvatra samabuddhaya, which means that the mind remains tranquil in the midst of all circumstances. You cannot always change circumstances. Some circumstances you can change, some you cannot. For instance, you have no control over somebody getting angry with you. I can say I won't get angry, but I have no control over the other person. So these things happen. Things change. Reactions are different. In the midst of all this, is it possible to keep your mind tranquil? Now you must understand that the Gita is preached in the battlefield, Kurukshetra, not in a cave or a monastery. So it's a very practical, in the midst of the activities of daily life, can I keep my mind tranquil? This is where yoga comes into the picture, which is why Patanjali calls yoga, defines yoga as yogas chitta vritti nirodha. The capacity to keep the mind's waves uniform and not going up and down all the time. Now, I also mentioned Ashtanga Yoga. Now, why is yoga called Ashtanga Yoga? Yoga is called Ashtanga Yoga because it has 8 angas, 8 limbs, 8 branches. Nowhere in the Yoga Sutra does Patanjali call it Ashtanga Yoga, although it has 8 angas. Patanjali calls it Kriya Yoga. The first chapter of Adhyaya of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra talks about the state where you reach ultimately, Samadhipada. The second one is called Sadhanapada. What are the practices required, which is where the Ashtangas come. Now in that, Patanjali refers to the 8 angas which will lead you towards the perfection in yoga. Now, while doing that, he also discusses and defines yoga. The first sentence of the chapter called Sadhanapada, Patanjali's, is tapas, swadhyaya, ishvara pranidhanani, kriya yoga. So tomorrow there is a workshop on Kriya Yoga. Now don't think that Kriya Yoga is something special. Of course, when I say Kriya Yoga, I refer to that Kriya which has come from Sri Guru Babaji. Okay, but Patanjali himself calls yoga as a whole as Kriya, which means practice. Nairantariya Abhyasena, another word used very frequently in the Yoga Sutras. Because what we are trying to do is, because we live in different circumstances, different households, different environments, our minds are likely to be looking at things differently. So therefore, to bring those thoughts into a particular mode, you need practice. Very important. And satsanga. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is not a book on yoga, of course, this way, there's a beautiful statement which says that all human beings are society-oriented. Nobody can live in isolation. And therefore, if you don't have sadhu satsanga, which means company of spiritually inclined people, since you cannot live alone, you will fall into dursanga. Right? Because a human being develops according to the environment. So if you don't have satsanga, normally you will go into dursanga. So therefore, satsanga is part of yamaniyamas, which means to be familiar, swadhyaya, to be familiar with the texts that describe yoga. To tapas, which means the word tapas is derived from the word tapa, which means heat. How does heat happen? You generate heat when you are fighting against tendencies. This is called tapasya. It need not, those days of tapasya where Dhruva stood on one foot for a long time, in Kali Yuga it's impossible. Here when we say tapas, it means effort given to change your habits, which generates heat. This is called tapasya, internal heat. And if you are a practitioner of yoga, also external heat in your body. So then this is called Kriya Yoga. Okay. Now the Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters. Each one is called a yoga. So yoga cannot be just Abhyasa Yoga. Simple. Can yoga be just standing on your head? Which is good for health. I have been doing it from the age of 10. I haven't had any nervous breakdown or hemorrhage of my brain. Nothing has happened. If you know how to do it. Right? So what did I say? No, not about that. नहीं वो छोड़िए. Right. So you are listening. Okay, good. अभी ये सत्संग बना. So In the Bhagavad Gita, there are 18 chapters and each chapter is called a yoga. Just watch. Listen, please remember this. So it cannot be only Abhyasa Yoga. Other things are included, starting with Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Now this Arjuna Vishada Yoga, people try to skip, but it is the most important beginning of the Bhagavad Gita because it is the yoga of Arjuna's, what shall we say, sadness, unhappiness, insecurity, uncertainty. Sanskrit Vishada can be translated in many ways. English doesn't have enough words to translate Vishada. Now, this is common to all human beings. At some point or the other, we are in Vishada. Right? So that is the beginning. The